Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Restored Motion, it's restoredmotions.com. ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. All right, y'all. What's good? How about that LSU win, 41-14 over Mississippi State? Got to be feeling a whole lot better about the Tigers. What's really interesting is the more and more and more we keep going through the season, the more information we have at our disposal, the more we recognize LSU's a really good team and Florida State's a really good team, and the rest of the SEC has a lot of problems, and LSU might just be the best team in the SEC still. So we can get into it here. LSU beats Mississippi State 41-14, a game that they completely controlled throughout. I mean, literally after the first play where Mississippi State had a 12-yard completion, they went, after that first down, they went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And then they finally scored on their last drive before the end of the first half. Malik Neighbors had over 200 yards receiving in the game. It was just total domination, and you did it without your two most veteran defensive players in Omar Spates and Greg Brooks. So to be down two really experienced defenders to start Whit Weeks, true freshman in his third game starting, was really impressive, and he played well. So Tigers look good, man. You know, you went forward on a fourth down, got a 26-yard touchdown pass. Sorry, that was the 33-yarder. The 4th and 7, you got a 33-yard touchdown pass. Neighbors was awesome. Logan Diggs continues to impress. You just see why he is your best running back. We've talked about him a bunch here. Told you all from jump that he's the most talented guy you got, the most complete guy. And then LSU didn't let up in the second half. Caleb, how about Caleb Jackson dump trucking that guy on the sideline? I mean, it's just pretty obvious, right? The cream always rises. So Logan Diggs, Caleb Jackson are your two best backs. When they took, I don't know if you saw late in the game, it was LSU's, was it the last drive? It was LSU's second to last drive. They pulled Will Campbell. Will Campbell had 4 penalties in the game, and they had a completion up to Brian Thomas, and Campbell had a face mask, and so Brian Kelly, you could see Brian Kelly on the sideline, getting a little animated, little F-bomb animated, saying it's his 4th bleeping penalty of the day, and so they took him out. But what's interesting about him, I'm not worried about Will Campbell. He's awesome. It's just one of those days. When Will came out, Emory Jones went over to left tackle. So that's sort of an indicator of what they would do if something ever did happen to Will, where he, God forbid, knock on wood, he tweaked an ankle or whatever, where he had to come out. Emory Jones went to left. So then Lance Hurd went to right, and Frazier was in a right guard. So kind of just an indicator of how they would play things if it comes to that. So anyway, let's see what y'all got. Fire away. Anything y'all want to talk about? We talk about the day, but again, like the day of college football as a whole. I mean, Tennessee went on the road and lost to Florida. Arkansas lost as an 8-point home favorite to BYU. Arkansas had like double the total yardage of BYU and lost at home. Colorado, I stayed up till about 1:30 last night watching the Colorado overtime game. They won it in 2 overtimes. So let's see, what else? Boy, South Carolina put a big scare. Alabama cannot move the football. I mean, tell me, tell me you don't feel better today about LSU's potential in the West. You worry about Arkansas? You worry about Ole Miss? I mean, Missouri beat Kansas State yesterday. You got to go back-to-back road games to Ole Miss and Missouri, and that going back-to-back road games in conference is not easy. But where Auburn? Who are you afraid of? Like, who can't this team beat? The more and more evidence you have, the more that reveals itself. So, all right, Bob Poole, good morning. Brant Roban, tough day up here in Vol Country. How about Bama? Tigers look most dominant in SEC yesterday. Now, look, I mean, the crazy thing is what Zach Arnett has done to Mississippi State. And that was my point all week, y'all, was this was Zach Arnett's not impressive. And I can't understand why you would take this thing that you've done exceptionally well, in the air raid and flush it. But you saw yesterday, man, like the Mike Leach effect on Mississippi State is very real. And I mean, yes, like, of course, from an air raid perspective, but just from a guy who'd been a head coach for 25 years, whatever. It's like just that level of experience to go from Leach to Zach Arnett, who, I mean, look at that situation in the first half where State was going to go for it on 4th and 3 at their own 32, and then they had to burn a timeout and end up punting. Like the indecision, Brian Kelly and LSU staff just outclassed Mississippi State yesterday. Brandon Hoyt, good to see the defense show up yesterday. Absolutely. Like, now I'll say this. It's so interesting because, the thing that was LSU's weakness has been the secondary, and the way that you can sort of compensate for struggles in the secondary is a really good presence in the front seven, right? To be able to stop the run and rush the passer. Well, look at what LSU did. They had 7 TFLs, 4 sacks, 4 passes defensed. State ran the ball 21 times for 94 yards, and 52 of that came on the one run by Woody Marks. So, I mean, so you're talking about 20 carries for 40 yards, average of 2 yards a carry outside of the long run. So LSU really control the line of scrimmage, man. Blake DeVilliers, I feel like Mississippi State's defense is very favorable to LSU, especially on the goal line with their linebackers are 5 yards deep in the end zone on an obvious run play. Chuck Sanchez, good morning. Whoops, where am I? What's up, Chuck? Get it? Up, Chuck? Sorry, been a minute. Almost let that one slip. Ryan DeLon, good morning. Another reason why we need to stop scheduling matchups on week 1. Team gets better as the season goes along. I mean, look, it's a different feeling if you win those games, right? But I think you have a large enough sample size to suggest, yeah. Kobe Walker, Jason Truax, what's good? Cortland Jacob, Chet Buxton, good morning. Kobe Walker, love watching your videos. Thank you, Kobe. Appreciate that, man. Nick Newbill, Mac McGuire, Randall Alfrecht, good morning. How about the Crimson Tide? Huge win. Yeah, so I don't know if y'all saw Bama yesterday, but they started Tyler Buck, the Notre Dame transfer. It did not go well. Buckner for the game finished 5 of 14 for 34 yards. They would replace him with Ty Simpson, who would finish the game 5 of 9 for 73 yards. So maybe it's Ty Simpson's turn now. Maybe they go back to Jalen Milroe. I don't know. But the reality is, I tell you all about Bama, bro. Like, it's just a bad quarterback year in the SEC. It's the reason I liked LSU. It's because they have the best quarterback in the conference. And it's why it's the most perplexing thing for some of y'all to continue to, like, bang the drum about Nussmeier. And it's not a knock on that kid. It's just Jaden Daniels has started 47 collegiate games. He's, You know, like, just look what he did yesterday. He's phenomenal. You know, it's like you can't get out of your own way sometimes and recognize what he is and what he's meant to this team when maybe sometimes looking around the rest of the league and seeing everybody's shortcomings makes you appreciate the thing that you have. But Bama gets Ole Miss this weekend in Tuscaloosa. And, you know, one thing about Lane's teams is they're going to dial it up offensively and move the football. So, you know, and then after that, Bama goes at State, at A&M, home against Arkansas, home against Tennessee, open date LSU. I picked Bama 9-3, and I'm feeling really good about that 9-3. All right. Nick Newbill, Devin Johnson, Christopher Benoit, Jackson Carney's there, Greg Brooks update. So Jackson, I don't know if y'all saw yesterday, but Brian Kelly gave the game ball to Greg Brooks, who did not travel. I genuinely don't know what has been put out there yet about Greg Brooks. I did make a few phone calls. What I knew before the game was that it was not an injury. So it wasn't like he twisted his ankle or something like that, and so they just didn't travel him. I'm not comfortable. Disclosing anything more yet because I just don't feel like I have it. The nature of what I was told is pretty sensitive, and so I don't. Sorry. Yeah, the nature of what I was told about Brooks is pretty sensitive, so I don't want to be careless. So if when I get more information, I'll certainly share it. Brian Kelly meets with reporters on Monday, so I'm certain he'll be asked about it, and we'll see what he's willing to disclose. But they gave Greg Brooks the game ball, which kind of tells you like it wasn't a thing where he's in trouble or anything like that. But I was also told like it wasn't an injury. So, you know. So, Donovan Peterson, great time in Starkville. In Jackson, look, I know that was vague. I'm sorry to be vague, but I'm just not comfortable saying anymore because I don't feel like I have complete and 100% total accuracy on the, on the story. Let's see. Great time at Starkville, home before 9 p.m. Michael Hoffman, Cortland Jacob, definitely. Daniels looks like the best quarterback in the SEC. He was picked preseason first team all SEC for a reason. Kona's Mojo. Couldn't watch the game yesterday, but the score tells the story. That's one of those instances where the score may not even tell the whole story. Kona's Mojo. It was way worse even than 41-14. Damon Gilmore. It was dominant. Person 2. What's up, trivia? Good morning. Person 2. What is that? ML Fody. Does LSU have the best two quarterbacks in the SEC? Maybe. Maybe. I'm not as high on clearly on Garrett Nussmeier as a lot of you are, who just assume that he's an All-American. I think sometimes that's just natural when you default to the backup quarterback. I would probably still tell you KJ Jefferson with his experience and his ability as a runner and a passer. I would take over Nussmeier today. Bubba Tatum, good morning from Elizabeth's in the Bywater. Okay, headed to the World War II Museum for the day. All right, Bubba, that's awesome, man. Have yourself a day, man. Craig Duga, how about Sunbelt Billy? Florida beat Tennessee. I had my money on the Gators and the points. I was not expecting them to win. It's really at the manner in which they did, but whew. Uh, um, D, good morning. Austin Kidder, good morning. I noticed Lacey was not targeted once yesterday. Loved what I saw from Diggs and Jackson. I'm looking forward to a Nuss Bus Less morning scout this morning. Brambo, I apologize to Jaden in the chat for doubting him. If he can continue to play like that without getting hit, LSU has a chance to beat anyone. Yeah, man, like, I, the point I'll make there is, like, if it took you this long to get to a point where you acknowledge Jaden Daniels is really good, like, what have you been watching, man? Like, uh, he accounted for 70% of LSU's offense a year ago. Like, I mean, it's just something you got to get out of your own way. Maybe yesterday was the day it took to do that for some of you. Ryan Pike was watching Whiskey and Wine on demand. Jumped in to hear when I got the notification. LOL. Georgia didn't look so big and mighty yesterday. SEC is wide open. Jeremy Weiss, morning, Matt. SEC wide open. I like the Tigers' chances more than ever waking up today. In fact, every top team in the country has their problems, it appears. Yeah, Florida State got a scare yesterday. Pretty emotional day at Boston College. They do the Wells Crowder game every year, the red bandana game. I'm sure many of you have heard that story, but Wells Crowder was a Boston College, I believe a lacrosse player at Boston College, who was working in the Trade Center on 9/11, and he saved a bunch of people's lives, like going back into the building to help people get out. And apparently he always carried a red bandana with him, and so some of the survivors noted that the man with the red bandana was the one who was helping people get out, and he died in the attacks, but saved a lot of people. So they do that game, the red bandana game, every year at Boston College, and it's pretty emotional, pretty cool. So they were sky high for that one. Had their shot too late. Matt Lusto, off topic, but if the Gators ultimately implode, could you see Corey Raymond coming back? You know, Matt, it's a good question. And look, man, I would very, very much endorse Corey Raymond coming back. And maybe that's something he would be interested in. I don't know. Like, I haven't spoken to Corey Raymond since he left LSU for the job. And what I've told you before is what I know, which is, you know, whenever they hired Durante, he wanted the DC job. But and honestly, now with the benefit of hindsight, you can look back and say, if you're going to hire Durante, who hadn't been a DC since 2009, why not just promote Corey from within? But anyway. Robert Wall, it seems like anyone that wears number 40 and plays linebacker at LSU goes off. Yo, we've been talking about Whit Weeks for a while, y'all. Now listen, I'll be very clear. Like, I thought they would start West Weeks yesterday. I thought they would go, just third-year player, junior, more experienced. I didn't think they'd start a guy playing his third game. But they started Whit, and I told you they loved him, man. They love Whit Weeks. I've been telling you that for months. Like, he's got the much higher ceiling. And you saw it yesterday. He was all over the field, man. He was pretty awesome yesterday. So, you know, now you look at a spot where it felt like you really didn't have great depth, and you may not have great depth there, but you'll get Spates back at some point, and Spates, Penn, Whit Weeks, West Weeks, you feel good about having four guys there. Whit Weeks led you in tackles with 8. Led you with 8 tackles. Andre Sam had 4. And Andre Sam was flying around yesterday. Harold Perkins had, and this is the type of day you want from Perkins, right? 4 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, 2 TFLs, and a pass defense. He was all over the field. So, great day, man. How could you not feel good coming out of yesterday? Great day. YouTube, do me a favor, smash that like button if you would. 302 watch. Appreciate that, y'all. Smash that like button. Subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page. Share the post. Barry Day, good morning. Blake DeVilliers. Campbell was pulled. Hurd didn't stay in on the O-line as well. I'm sorry. Shelly Melanson, what's up, Shelly? Did E-Rock stay up for the double OT finish? She did. Eric and I both stayed up. So we went to Rufino's last night, saw Shelly. So one of the benefits of an early kick is everything finishes early. So we went to Rufino's last night for dinner. And Florida game was on in the bar, so we watched Florida, Tennessee. And then the Colorado game started at 9 or 9:20, whenever they started. So we went home. I think we kind of closed it down. Sorry, Shelly, we stayed so late. We're like the last people that left. So we went home and we stayed up and watched the double overtime. So I went to bed like 1:30 last night. It finished about 1:30. And I tweeted, like, come on, Buffs, like, congrats on the comeback. But you can't storm the field when you need double overtime to win as a 23-point favorite. And so my guy Tim Brando was like, Matt, they've been so bad so long. Yes, they can. I'm like, I get it, but someone's got to teach them. Like, someone's got to teach them etiquette here. Kelly Gross, good morning. Carson Stevenson, Arkansas had two, missed it, sorry. Oh man, where am I? There it is. Arkansas had two 10-point leads, blew them in the same game, yep. Chewy Gutierrez, glad Brian Kelly didn't bring Reese from Notre Dame as ROC, and he tried to. David Coslin, good morning. Blaine Smith, Hurd and Campbell seem to have a little communication issues. That comes from not playing together, and we'll get better. Hurd wasn't playing next to Will Campbell. Hurd was on the right side. It was Hurd and Emory Jones. So whenever Hurd went in at right tackle, Jones moved to right guard. So they played side by side. When Brian Kelly pulled Will Campbell in the fourth quarter, that was, you could hear him say, or you could read his lips and say, I don't give a blank. It's his fourth blanking penalty of the day. They pulled Will Campbell and they moved Emory Jones over to left tackle. So indicator of what they would do if they get into a situation where they need to find a backup for Will Campbell is they would take Emory Jones and move him over. Yeah, so it's about getting your best five on the field, right? And so they feel like that's their best five. Sonny Warbington, good morning from Birmingham, relishing the fact we dominated. Haven't heard a single roll tide today. Bama fans in panic mode. They should be. They should be. Derek, they don't have a quarterback. They're not great on the line of scrimmage. They have real problems. Derek Peterson, new eyes from the Williamson Eye Center. Help me see those Tigers. I love it, Derek. That's awesome, man. Shout out Dr. Blake and the Williamson Eye Center. I love what Dr. Blake says so often. He's like, every person deserves to see, like, and he's helping them one at a time. Hey, babe. Oh, he's trying to be quiet because y'all are still sleeping. Is he awake? Okay. Come on. John DeRoche. Good morning, Blaine Smith. Daryl Fano, you ever thought you would see Alabama look that bad? Rough. Daryl, yes. I mean, yes. I get it. We all make picks and predictions, and so there's strikes and gutters, but that was one, like, the few things that I seemingly have gotten right. I was high on Colorado, and they obviously look good. Says it's the worst quarterback year in the SEC since 2014, and that looks right. And as a result, said Bama was going 9-3 this year because I don't think they're not good at quarterback and they're not good on the line of scrimmage. So those things look like they're playing out. Now, I picked LSU beat Florida State and win the national championship, but I got a long way to go for that. We'll see. John DeRoche, Matt, is Coach Prime going to Bama? Maybe. I shared this on AFR this week, and I shared it on AFR because I wanted to go on the record. I wanted to have it on the record as early as possible because I had a conversation earlier this week with someone very highly placed within an athletic department in the SEC who said in no uncertain terms they feel like Deion will be in the SEC in 2 years. Basically, when Travis Hunter and Shedeur go to the NFL, like he'll stay at Colorado until Travis Hunter and Shedeur go to the NFL, and then he'll jump to the SEC. And the the number one targeted place was Florida. Um, Missouri was also mentioned as a possibility. And the kind of wild card was Alabama, because there's a lot of people at Bama that are coming around to the idea of replacing Nick with Dion if / when Nick steps aside. So I do think Dion will be in the SEC. And I went on the record with that early this week, and it's recorded, dated. So when it happens, I can play that, and y'all can know I'm not a Johnny come lately to it. Blaine Smith, Daryl Fontenot, LSU UGA rematch coming. Likely. Tennessee's loss yesterday was crushing. Because I could have seen a scenario maybe where Tennessee lost to Bama, but beat Bama, but lost to Georgia. Lost to Bama, beat Georgia, so they won a tiebreaker against Georgia. In the East, but losing to Florida, now you don't have any more wiggle. Like you gotta win. You gotta go 7-1. You gotta beat Georgia. So, morning, Scone. Bama looked like they're back in the Dubose era. It was glorious. LOL. Alan Owings. Good morning. Brant Roban. Thoughts on UT made Florida look amazing. Yeah, man. The thing I'll say, Brant, is, man, as a reminder that you all know this, but just to say it out loud, it is really hard to win on the road in the SEC. Like, really hard. It's hard to win on the road in the SEC. Florida it's still the swamp, and when that place gets charged up, it is a hard place to go play and win. It's why I liked LSU this year. You got Florida, A&M, and Auburn all at home. Those are three very tough venues to play where they get full throat and loud when LSU comes in. So, yeah, you got to go to Tuscaloosa, but you get all those other games at home. Anyway, my point is, I don't think Florida's a great team this year by any stretch. But I still think Billy Napier's a good coach. That's a tough place to play. And if you go have a bad day and they have a good day, that can happen, yes. Randy Smith, Malik Neighbors, best wide receiver in the SEC. I'll remind you that he's the leading returning receiver in the conference from a year ago. He had the most catches a year ago, and he was one of only 2,000-yard receivers in the conference last year. So, yes, you could make the case that he's the best receiver in the SEC, absolutely, and he's on the short list of best receivers in the country. It's always on everybody's mock draft as a first-round pick. I've seen him mocked as high as 7th overall. So, yeah, that's not a stretch, Randy. Let's see, Chewy, Mississippi State's offensive coordinator makes their quarterback look terrible, not just against LSU. You know, Chewy, here's the weird thing about it. Their OC came from App State, Kevin Barbay. And the offense Kevin Barbay ran at App State is not what he's running right now. I'm telling y'all, I believe the word I used yesterday was Milesian. Like, that's what Zach Arnett is doing. He is saying, we are going to run the ball. We're going to play defense. We're not going to turn it over. That's his approach. And that could work at a place like LSU when Les was here because you had better athletes than everybody. You could control the line of scrimmage. When you're at Mississippi State, you need a gimmick because 1-85, you're not going to be as good as the best teams in the conference, talent-wise. So it's not Kevin Barbay. It's Zach Arnett. Teresa Michelle, good morning. Nice to see Daniels run. You see Daniels get down is what we need to see. I love when he runs. He's a really dynamic runner, but, man, don't take hits. Tony Williams, David Tolson, Colorado State was very entertaining and chippy. It was fun to watch. It was very fun to watch. Really good game. Chris Anthony, morning, Matt. With the way Bama played, we will be favorites in every game this season. Even the Florida State game, we have to play them, but on paper we are the better team. Chris, I don't think LSU will be a road favorite at Bama. I think that'll be the one game where they're an underdog. You still have to go on the road in Tuscaloosa. So I think LSU can certainly win that game, but I do not think LSU will be a road favorite in that game. Justin Little, by the first weekend in November, LSU will be the best team in the SEC and gelling at the right time. What a very pleasant day today is, and how dramatically different than 2 weeks ago when there was a full-on melt and everybody. And I'll tell y'all, I tweeted this too. Shout out to Jesse Palmer, because Jesse Palmer yesterday on the broadcast is the first national guy I've heard say this. And he said it in the game, he's like, people are acting like LSU got blown out by Florida State. LSU moved the ball at will, and if they, in the first half, it's like, and if they converted a couple of opportunities, they could have been up 17. Jesse Palmer said that on the broadcast yesterday, which is so true. I mean, you led by 3, and as good as Florida State is, LSU led that game at half by 3 and had 2 possessions inside the 10 where they got no points. Now, you had tipped Florida State because their defense made plays, absolutely. But LSU had opportunities to convert, and if you convert there, if you're up 17 at half, how dramatically different does that change the complexion of the second half if you're up 3 scores at halftime? Anyway, like LSU didn't play a bad game against Florida State. They played a bad quarter. The fourth quarter was bad. It was terrible. Anyway, Darren Gagnon Scone, early line on Arkansas, LSU, and Ole Miss Bama games. I don't know about Ole Miss Bama. I saw an early line on LSU Arkansas on Friday, and it was LSU 13.5. So LSU should be a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. It'll probably climb a little too. Daniels passed for over 300 yards on Florida State. He did. Daniels had, I mean, LSU put up 300 yards in the first half against Florida State. It's got to finish. Dalton Pichon, good morning. Really like how hard Stamps played yesterday. They like Ashton Stamps a lot. Smart guy. The thing, I think, if you're a young player, you just have to be assignment sound. The thing that's hard to justify putting a young guy out there that doesn't know, like, this is why it worked so well for Whit Weeks. He knows where to be. He's not out of position. He comes downhill and makes plays. It's like when you're assignment sound, coaches can justify putting you on the field. How about that? 337 watching live. Appreciate that. Y'all do me a favor, smash the like button if you're there on YouTube. And if you're new, please subscribe up to the channel. Appreciate y'all. We're here every single day. Literally every single day in the morning. Most weekdays, we start around 7:30 Central. Go about 30 minutes, 7:38. And as always, shout out to Brock. After Hours Clinic is open nights and weekends. So as an alternative to the ER, bypass the ER, go to Brock. And of course, Hudco Roofing. Hudco's pinned in the chat. So love to give you that free, no obligation roofing inspection. Give a shout. Hudco Roofing. Let's see. Daniels is like Gumby. He absorbs hit pretty well. He got hurt worse on the slide. Lawrence Burley, good morning. I am LSU Sam. This is where I believe we can beat Bama. Does that mean they will spank us? No. I mean, it's a tough place to go play. But is LSU capable of winning that game in Tuscaloosa? Yes, they are. Jordan Bethune, I was at the game with my wife. These 2 guys with cowbells were so mad. It started getting nasty with everyone. He started hitting my seat with it, calling this other girl the B word. Just no need for it. Yeah, unfortunately, man, every fan base has them. Just hope they don't ruin your day. You know, I know plenty of great Mississippi State people. You know, it's like I know plenty of great LSU people and plenty of people that would do the same thing. So. Troy Plummer, good morning, Matt. I enjoyed watching Missouri beating K-State. Colorado State was a great game. Why do you think LSU doesn't run more to the outside of running plays? I think LSU ran plenty of zone yesterday. You got to keep in mind, so much of the offense is based around the zone read, which is, you know, he's got an offset back, Jaden takes a shotgun, then he's reading the end. And so if the end stays, you give. If the end crashes down, you pull and Jaden runs. So much of that is just what the defense is showing you, but I think they run to the perimeter plenty. And then remember, they also they ran the shovel pass to Malik on 4th and 1. I'm trying to find where it was. On LSU's first drive, they had a 4th and 1. They ran the shovel pass to Malik, who was coming in motion, which is an extension of the run to get to the edge. So I think they run plenty to the outside. Brian Turner, Matt Lusto doesn't look like they will. Oh, sorry, you're reading some. Thought it was interesting. Ontario talked about needing some more attitude. We got that in spades. I agree. The Harold Perkins personal foul, the offsetting personal foul on that first 3rd down of the game where he and the offensive linemen were headbutting each other. It's like, I mean, it was offsetting personal fouls, thankfully. It didn't extend their drive. But I love the fact that they weren't, I mean, they came out with a little more attitude yesterday. Cosmos Zuna, good morning. Irfan Sayad, Paul Daigle, good morning. Cold Case, my God, Matt, Alabama looks like a disaster. The quarterback play is completely inept. So do y'all understand now, like, not every, but why I'm bullish on Jaden Daniels? Look at Jaden Daniels compared to the rest of the quarterbacks in the league. I'm not telling you Jaden Daniels is Joe Burrow. I'm not telling you he's going to be the first pick of the draft and is a future Hall of Famer and all that stuff. But when you've got a guy that started 47 games, whatever it is now, who is a dynamic runner that can hurt you with his feet that you have to respect, who does not turn the ball over and can make plays downfield, like everybody wanted to see air yards. Well, you got your air yards yesterday. I mean, anyway. Can you look around now and see, like, why? Marine Sniper 42, good morning. RIP Mike Leach. I mean, it's on a human level, it's certainly tragic. I mean, in a literal sense, by definition, a tragedy involves a death. From a vastly less important but still consequential football standpoint, that's devastating to that program. I mean, Mike Leach is a great college football coach who thrived in settings where he didn't have many resources. Lubbock, Pullman, Starkville. Mark Allen, quote, I still don't like Daniels. I heard that in the gas station this morning. Hey, look, man, that's why after the Florida State game, if you go back and look at Whiskey and Wine from the Florida State game, like at the very beginning, T-Bob and I said, I'm not getting emotional about the Daniels thing. I just can't. Like, people have made up their minds. And by the way, there's going to be a game this year. There 100% there will be a game this year. Remember this. There will be a game this year where Jaden Daniels stinks. There will be. Over a 12-game regular season, potential SEC championship game, bowl, postseason, playoff, whatever. There will be a game this year where Jaden Daniels stinks. It'll happen. It will happen. It's just the nature of football. You'll play a game where you're not good on that day. Look at Kadarius Toney on Thursday night for the Chiefs last week. Dude's an NFL receiver, really good one. Dropped 4 balls. Really cost his team the game. Will Campbell, All-America caliber left tackle, had 4 penalties yesterday. They pulled him in the fourth quarter. It's a bad day. Happens. Jeff, are you concerned about Jaden's inability to throw downfield? Jeb Whitley, happy Sunday, Scone family. Hope you're doing well. Feel great about LSU's place in the SEC. It appears wide open. For sure, Jeb. Good to see you, man. Kendall Nugent, Texas didn't look impressive either. That was and listen, a lot of people call it the letdown spot for Texas. I mean, you go get the big road win against Bama, and they got to come home against Wyoming. And didn't Wyoming beat Texas Tech? So Wyoming's not a terrible team. You had just a massive letdown spot for Texas. I mean, I know there were a lot of people who were kind of predicting a letdown for Texas, and that totally makes sense. Joshua DeNova, Robert Wall, LSU opened 17-point favorites against Arkansas. 17, okay. It was, I told you on Friday, it was 13 and a half on Friday. So Arkansas loses at home to BYU as an 8-point favorite, and LSU blows the doors off Mississippi State. I get why that line is what it is. But I'll tell you all this, Arkansas, their trio of receivers are really good. I think that's the best receiving core that Arkansas has had since Bobby Petrino was there with Ryan Mallett and that whole squad. So Arkansas, like KJ Jefferson can spin it, and we'll see if Rocket Sanders is back. Sanders, who's there, Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders didn't play yesterday against BYU. He hadn't played the last 2 games due to injury, so he's got swelling in his knee, so they're holding him, trying to get him back ready for LSU. So I suspect he will be back, but they got Andrew Armstrong, Isaac Tesla, and Jaden Wilson. They've got they got some dudes out wide now. So that's going to be a real challenge for LSU's pass defense next weekend. Seriously, with Arkansas's receivers, that'll be a much bigger test than what we saw against Mississippi State. Craig Duga, I can't believe I stayed up to watch UFC and the Colorado game. UFC ends in a draw, but I saw that. Oh my God. So Colorado should have lost, blatant holding. Craig, I saw the draw with Valentina. That's unbelievable. The one judge that scored round 5, 10-8 is, I was listening to the post-fight commentary from like John Anik and DC, and it's like they were all just, like I say, furious, but like none of them had like could explain at all that. So like Valentina got screwed out of getting the championship back. That's crazy. Because if he just scored a 10-9, even if he scored the round for Grasso, would have scored a 10-9 instead of 10-8, which, I mean, anyway, Valentina would have won the fight. So, anyway. Let's see, Thomas Morvant, Matt, I know you probably can't explain, but why do teams continue to line up in shotgun when they need a yard or less for first down, especially on fourth down? Because it's what they do, Thomas. When what you do is operate out of the shotgun, and then you try to go under center, there's more of a chance of a mishandled exchange. It's just not what you do. So, I'm with you. Like, if you need less than a yard, I'm good with going under center and running a quarterback sneak, and just pushing bodies. But for the most part, like the best example that I heard of this, Thomas, I was watching a game. I don't know why this stuck with me. I was watching a game 10 years ago. It was a Thursday night football game. And it was Houston. It was University of Houston playing. And I don't know if Sumlin was still there, if it was whoever replaced Sumlin. But they were running some form of the air raid where they threw it 70 times a game. And in the post-game interview, and it was raining, and they had scored 70 in the game, something like that. And after the game, on the field reporter asks the coach, so, Coach, why were you throwing the ball up 70 in the rain? And he said, it's what we do. So that's why. It may not be a great answer, Thomas, but I don't know that you've seen a stark decline in the number of fourth down or the percentage of fourth down conversions as a result of formation. I think it's just do what you do to get a yard. Like LSU had 4th and 1 yesterday, and they got it on the shovel pass to Malik Neighbors coming in motion. They did the shovel pass to him, and he got 3-4 yards. He got. I didn't write down how many yards he got, but it was an effective play. Mark Allen, do you think Dan Mullen gets a run back in Starkville? I don't know. I don't know what Dan Mullen's going to do. They should welcome him back with open arms, though. Brian Penn, good morning from Vidor, Texas. All right. Do you think the Longhorns are still a top 10 team? Yes, absolutely. Robert Wall, Mississippi State is an SEC West school. I feel like they could have hired a bigger name than Arnett, at least someone with head coaching experience. Hi.
Good morning, Dad.
Well, you will come tell him over here.
And then,
Well, come tell him over here.
Van.
Oh my goodness, who do I have?
That's a van.
Well, Daddy will go to church, and then Daddy and Drew will go to the mall.
Can you say good morning?
Can you say good morning?
Good morning.
Say good morning, Dad Show.
Good morning, Dad.
Oh, you slept so good. It's 10:22, you sleepy head.
What color is Daddy?
What color is Daddy's shirt?
It's blue.
What color is Daddy's shirt?
Blue.
Blue. He's obsessed with color. So every day he says, "What color is?" So it's and he doesn't say shirt. He just says, "What color? Like what color is Daddy?" It's like, "What color is Daddy's shirt?"
Oh, I love you.
Oh, that little boy. His booty says camouflage. Camouflage. You know those little sayings on the little trap door in the back of those jammies. All right. Bruno Van Moore, good morning. Buzz Rayleigh, good morning. Samuel Marifomat, what do you feel is the current status of sports media? Are channels like Broadcast ESPN obsolete due to these blogs, etc.? I miss how do radio personalities survive like you do. You have fresh content always. Well, Samuel, I think, hey, John Fisher, good morning. I think, Samuel, from my perspective, I don't think of myself as a radio host anymore. Like, radio is still our North Star. It's still the thing we do that has the biggest audience, right? Most of our consumers are on terrestrial radio, meaning tuned to 104.5, 104.9, 100.3 New Orleans, 94.7 Alexandria, 103.7 Lafayette, 104.1 Lake Charles. That's where the majority of our audience is, free radio in the car. But I also understand that a lot of people prefer to podcast, and some people want to watch YouTube videos, and some people want a full 3-hour show on YouTube, and some just want 10-minute clips, and some people just want 60-second short form verticals on TikTok or Reel. So you have to think of yourself less as a radio host and more of as a media company. You just have to produce media on all the different platforms where people exist. You have to go wherever your audience is. So that's why I do all the stuff that I do. Jesse Brown, I'm going on a limb. Career stats, when his career is done at LSU, Daniels will be the best quarterback in LSU history. Well, no, he won't. Because Tommy Hodson was a 4-year starter. So Jaden's numbers, his cumulative career numbers, aren't going to surpass Tommy Hodson's. And no one will ever have a single season better than Joe Burrow's. So no, he won't. He won't, Jesse. He won't surpass those. If you're just talking about LSU, now if you're combining his time at LSU and Arizona State as a 5-year player, maybe. But if you're talking about just his 2 years at LSU, he won't surpass Hodson. Brian Turner, shout out to Cortez Hankton. See great things in his future. Hopefully LSU can keep him. Yeah, Cortez has been great, man. It was a big coup getting him from Georgia when they did. Dave Vendur, good morning. Cortland, LSU had 99 yards from the running backs. Even though Daniels was leading rusher, he didn't have more than half the total rush yards. Yeah, I mean, look, you very clearly found your bell cow, right? With Logan Diggs, and oh man, I am way behind on comments. Sorry, y'all. Oh wow. Oh man, I am super far behind on comments. Sorry. Wow. All right, I'm gonna go a little quicker. Sorry. Smash that like button if you would, please. 366 watching. That's awesome. Appreciate y'all hanging out. JCH, Todd Harris, kick coverage team looks scary. Great win overall. Yes, that is, if you have one complaint, they allowed a 39-yard return, they allowed the long return on they did the 39-yard kickoff return. So start at midfield. But that was a good 3 and out they forced because Savion Jones sack, incomplete. So they went 3 and out after that was their second possession of the game, where they had that long kickoff return of the 48. But their LSU's kick coverage was not great. Now Tula Griffin is a really good returner, but you're going to face other really good returners, so you definitely have to shore that up. Babe, could you turn that down a little bit, please? Erica, could you turn that down a little bit, please? Thank you. Jason H., Jesse Brown, Wacky Chris, good morning. Felt nice to beat down an SEC foe. This was more of what we expected to see from this team. Hopefully, second half against Florida State is a blip on the radar. I mean, if you think of it so far, LSU football has played 12 quarters of football. 12 quarters of football. Their offense has been really good for 11 of the 12. Defense was good in the first half against Florida State. I mean, you got 4 stops against Florida State in the first half. You were obviously good after the first quarter against Grambling, and then you were awesome for 4 quarters yesterday. So I'd say 9 of your 12 defensive quarters have been good, but the same issues that popped up in the 3 quarters that you weren't good were all the same, right? Brennan Huff. So Brennan Huff, I never put together that was Brennan Huff from Step Brothers. I guess I just haven't seen the movie enough to know what his last name was. I thought it was Brendan. It is Brendan Huff. Okay, that's okay. No, it was Brennan Huff. Okay, never mind. All good. Okay. Onward. Someone pointed. I think you jumped in the chat on Whiskey and Wine yesterday, and I read your name, and T-Bob laughed and referenced Step Brothers, or Musa laughed and referenced Step Brothers, and I never put it together. So, hat tip. Clint Wichter. Great game. Hope the coaches change their goal line approach. Shotgun at 4th and inches doesn't make sense. I got it. I don't disagree with you. Just know they're going to do what they do. Bo Jax, Mac McGuire, hilarious how prior to this year nobody gave a darn about Colorado, excluding Coloradans. Now we're staying up till after midnight in Louisiana to watch. The difference one man makes. So true. He has made them undeniably interesting. Chase DeAndre. Now, I also have a financial interest because I made a very heavy play on Colorado over 3.5. So they're at 3, and I'm feeling really good. That will get one more win, and I can cash that ticket. May not be this week. They go to Oregon. They go Oregon, USC back-to-back weeks. Perkins for Heisman. Morning Matt just finished watching Brian Kelly's postgame. Found it interesting. He said the defense wanted to have a live practice Tuesday, full tackling. Said Mason said, now that's a real practice. I agree. Like, I want physicality. You need physicality. It's one of the reasons I think teams struggle. You see it in the NFL too. One of the reasons teams struggle to tackle is you go through camp and preseason and nobody tackles. And then all of a sudden you have to go live and nobody's been tackling. It's no wonder why people aren't great at tackling. You don't practice it anymore. Todd Harris, Whitweeks looks legit. He does. Cosmos, it's okay. Most of y'all will still be kicking and screaming for us. Ryan Rayford, those route concepts were pretty sweet yesterday, huh, Matt? Yes, the route concepts were nice. Jesse, let's see, Daniels made NFL throws all his career, exemplified that yesterday. Jeffrey Parrott, good morning. Early thoughts, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Bama, Ole Miss, Oregon, Colorado. So I think Ohio State has shown some vulnerabilities. Big opportunity for Notre Dame, and I think they probably win that game. Bama, Ole Miss, that game is in Tuscaloosa, so I still like Alabama. Oregon, Colorado, I like Oregon. I think Colorado loses for the first time. Richie B, Matt, we need a new quarterback. Daniels is dropping too many dimes out there. We need to get back to quarterbacks with a 46% completion percentage. So he puts parenthetically sarcasm. I got you, Richie. Scott McClendon, what was the medical emergency with Brooks? Again, Scott, I don't know. I was told something yesterday that I'm not comfortable repeating. I trust very much the person who told me, but it was still kind of nondescript. And I understand that this is nondescript in saying it, but suffice to say it wasn't an injury, like he didn't twist an ankle or something like that. It was something I think a little more concerning. So Greg Brooks he did not travel. Um, um, so he's back home in Louisiana. Um, and hopefully everything checks out and he's all good and he's back with the team real soon. Leonard Revere, good morning, Matt, from Mount Olive, Mississippi. Okay. Dave Ender, who was the I don't effing care, that's his fourth effing penalty. It was Will Campbell. So they took Will out of the game and moved Emory Jones to left tackle at that point. Cortland Jacob, didn't he have vertigo in camp? This stuff creeps up whenever it wants. Yeah, it was weird when Greg Brooks missed. Yes, when he missed time in camp because it wasn't an injury. It was that's what we were told. Yes. Austin Kidder, Matt, I'm surprised more people haven't mentioned the possibility of LSU winning out, having a rematch of Florida State, growing more and more optimistic. I think that's a real possibility. You know, I think Clemson, Florida State is going to be really interesting. That game is at Clemson. And you know that'll be a real telltale. I mean that's this weekend. It's Florida State is at Clemson, and that's an 11 a.m. game too. By the way, so it's not a night game at Clemson. It's an 11 a.m. game or noon Eastern. But that's going to be a real telltale as far as the if Florida State really is ready to take command of that conference. As always, I'll shout out to Brock Hudco. Need North Peace, go to Brock. Need a roof, call Hudco, and Restored Motions. Went saw Crystal Poche on Friday. My goodness, that just will always be a part of. That will just always be a part of my like holistic health approach. Like for someone who's dealt with chronic pain and chronic back pain, like nothing has ever given me not just relief but healing like Crystal over at Restored Motions. I'm gonna drop her website in the chat. So if you have pain, like if you are living in chronic pain and you've tried everything, like you've tried OT, PT, you've done dry needling, cupping, acupuncture, pain pills, muscle relaxers. I've done it all too. Nothing has given me healing like that. So would highly recommend. Book a session, go with an open mind. Restored Motions. Perkins for Heisman, Matt, defense played great considering all the players out. Brooks, Ovi, Spates. Yeah, that's the other thing too is I don't know if Ovi Gofu was unavailable. I don't know that, but they did start Braden Jack. I don't know if he played a really good game. Probably a little more versatile of a player than a Gofu is. Jared Guillory, Saban now is starting to his talent. All those 5 stars, potentially go 9-3. It's time for him to retire. So I'm going to say again, with respect to Nick in Alabama, I don't think he's wasting all his 5 stars. I think the big change, the difference in Alabama is forever. Nick would stack 4 and 5 star recruit classes on top of each other, and those guys would stay. It was always amazing that you had guys that would come back for a senior year, pass on the draft. We had that conversation all the time. Well, now you go recruit a class of 4 and 5 star guys, and after a year, if they're not playing, they leave. Look at Aaron Anderson, right? So you have to take advantage of the portal, and I don't believe Nick has done that. I think his rosters have weakened as a result, and we saw it last year. But he had Bryce Young, who was so amazing that Bryce Young erased a lot of their shortcomings because he was so amazing. And now you don't have Bryce Young, and you still have all those problems. So, it's that is what is plaguing Bama. It's not that Nick has lost a step or they're not recruiting or like. It's the portal. The portal has started to gut that roster, and I'm going to be very interested to see how Kirby manages the portal. because, a couple of years ago, they didn't take anybody out of the portal. They didn't need anybody out of the portal. This year you look and they went and got a kid from Missouri who was the leading receiver in the SEC last year, who's now at Georgia. They've supplemented in spots where they've needed to. Look at Florida State, y'all. Like, if Braden Fisk, Keon Coleman, and Fentrell Cypress were wearing purple and gold instead of garnet and gold, LSU wins that game against Florida State. Period. It's not just getting players, but it's getting good players at positions of need that can help you immediately. It's no surprise why Florida State is where they are, considering, right? Meanwhile, LSU in its secondary has Andre Sam, who's a Marshall transfer, and Zy Alexander, who's a Southeastern transfer, and look good for those guys, man. Like, I thought Andre Sam played really well yesterday. It was physical, attacking downhill. The defense played really well yesterday. No complaints about the defense yesterday, but some of the issues you had, you wonder why. That's why. Let's see. Did Denver Harris start at corner? He did, yes. Denver Harris started opposite Zy Alexander. Patrick McKenzie, good morning, Matt. Have you seen an opening spread for Arkansas? Someone just said it was 17.5. I saw on Friday it was 13.5, but after Arkansas lost as an 8-point home favorite and LSU blew out Mississippi State, I'd imagine it would be a little bit bigger. Saban, even last year with a great quarterback, lost 2 games, so it's not just a quarterback problem for Saban and his team. I'll say it again, they played 5 50-50 games last year, and they went 3-2 in them. They beat A&M, Ole Miss, and Texas. Lost to Tennessee and LSU. They played 5 50-50 games. Normally those are games where Bama's winning by double digits. But they had Bryce Young last year. They don't have it this year. All right, let's see. Hunter Fournette, Matt, you should go to Arkansas's practice, simply chart KJ Jefferson and completions. I don't know if they allow practice access. Ryan Rayford, the more I think about it, Matt, if you told me LSU is going to lose 1 game, where do you want it? I would have told you early September game against a good FSU team. Yeah. You can come back from it. And the fact that it's a non-conference game helps. But the kicker, though, in losing that game is, y'all know we've never seen a 2-loss team make the playoffs. So you don't have margin for error. The interesting thing will be is if LSU, let's say, goes 7-1 in the league, but wins the West. So they go 10-2, win the West, go to SEC championship game, beat Georgia. Do they get in? I would think so. Probably depends on what the rest of the landscape of college football looks like. Like if you have 4 undefeated conference champions, then probably not. But LSU was in a position last year where had they beaten A&M and beaten Georgia, they were going to get in as a 2-loss team. But obviously they lost to A&M, lost to Georgia. Would KJ, without his Arkansas starts, be number 2 quarterback at LSU or Nuss? That's one way to compare the two. KJ without his Arkansas starts? So are you saying like when he was a freshman or KJ now? I don't know how you take away the starts. I guess I don't understand the question. Because someone asked the question, is LSU the 2 best quarterbacks in the league? And I said, no, I think Jaden and KJ Jefferson are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. Carly Cat, Tennessee fans had to be sick today losing to Sunbelt Billy. Jason H. Bubba, I hope you are some meat candy. The Parline bacon is the best. Irfan say, I bet all the people calling for Nuss now will be calling for Collins when Nuss gets his chance next year. Cargo said Jordan Jefferson looks really good. He does. So Jordan Jefferson, of course, the defensive line transfer from West Virginia, who he's talking about. He is a physical interior player. He's a guy who wears 99. He's not a guy that necessarily is going to stuff the stat sheet, but he pushes the pocket and moves the middle and clogs up holes, and he's a good player. Weird no Saints game today, no stress Sunday, yeah. Harambe, what's going on? Barry Joslin stayed up way late in the Eastern Standard Time for the 2 overtime Colorado State game. Fast moving offense, but I'd love to see them face a solid SEC defense. Scott McClendon, maybe his appendix. I'm sure Coach Kelly will address Monday. It was not his appendix. I mean, I was told loosely what the issue was, but I'm not comfortable saying until I have more definitive. But it was not his appendix. Ryan Rayford, do you think Georgia's more beatable this year? Yes, they're beatable this year. Look at that. Look at South Carolina South Carolina had them on the ropes yesterday in Athens. Like, they don't have a quarterback. I mean, you could say what you want about Carson Beck and what his potential is, but right now they're not great. Really good defensive team, and that may carry them a long way. And Beck can keep getting better and better. But everybody has their issues. Barry, Matt Ferrer was T-Bob high last night on whiskey and wine. Please tell me that brother got an Uber. So he always gets an Uber. And he probably was high and drunk. So he's got a prescription cannabis pen. So I'm sure it was. But yeah, but he always Ubers. He does. John Dew said, morning Scone, how crazy would it be if LSU plays Notre Dame in the playoffs? That'd be something. Aaron Anderson tweeted last night, they have to feel me now or later. Oh, okay, later then. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. I like Aaron Anderson. I think he's a really good athlete. He brings a different dynamic, but when he's gotten his opportunities and his touches this year, it hadn't been great. So, Zachary Snyder, morning, Matt, love the flag on Perkins early to help set the tone. I agree. Todd Harris, George LeBron, good morning. Love the attitude Sam brings to the DB group. They got some, look, man, even if you go back to the Florida State game, guys weren't out of position. They just got beat by a better receiver. I mean, the first touchdown Keon Coleman made, Andre Sam and Zy Alexander each had a shot to tackle him. They couldn't get him on the ground. Major Burns, Deuce Chestnut, each had really good coverage on Keon Coleman, and they mossed him. He mossed them, I should say. He's a really good player, man. Brent DeGrow, good morning. Bailey C. Jaden looks so comfortable. Jesse Brown, what about Prime? How about what Prime is doing in Colorado? Becoming a fan of what he's doing. They've had 2 home games, storming the field twice. Do they have to lose home games now? No, that's an SEC rule, remember? Kevin Salisbury, only dominant performance in the SEC. Dalton Pichon, Williamson Ice Center does Lacey. Yes, not going to lie. Kind of wish when it comes to my eyes. Been putting it off for a while now. Dalton, I'm telling you, I was the same. I was the exact same. I was scared of the laser, and I always heard LASIK wears off. And both of those myths were debunked. LASIK is actually the safest elective procedure in the history of mankind, statistically. And as far as LASIK wearing off, LASIK never wears off. Trevi, if you're here, could you please get rid of that person spamming the chat? I got it. What were we talking about? Sorry. Yeah, LASIK doesn't wear off. It's just that LASIK affects like 10% of your eye, right? It's changing the shape of your eye, but other parts of your eye continue to age, so you could have other refractive issues. So that's why, like, people who have LASIK and then years later need glasses again, you can get PRK done. Hester did this. Hester had LASIK when he was playing football, and last year, Dr. Blake Williams did PRK on Hester, so now he sees without glasses again. So That's what I always say, man. No matter your age or your refractive issue, they have something that can help you see 2020 without contacts or glasses. They're awesome, man. It is so worth it. It's so worth it. Brett DeGrow, I like the move to pull Campbell. Brian Kelly letting him know everyone will do things the right way, even number 7. Dame 26 Matt, I wish I was built like Caleb Jackson. Good Lord, kid is a tank. Mike Hardy, all over from New Jersey, go Tigers. LSU has the best quarterback situation in the SEC, which lets them have a chance in any game until the playoff. Cargo, what are your thoughts on Ole Miss? Interesting, Jackson Dart has won that job. Quinshon Judkins is a great running back. I think their offensive line has really struggled. And I'm not so sure that I'm a believer in Ole Miss's defense. I don't like having to go on the road back-to-back weeks. That is historically problematic in the SEC, having to play back-to-back road games. But having to go back-to-back to Ole Miss and Missouri are both winnable, inherently winnable games. So you gotta be ready to roll in those two games because it is not easy to go back-to-back road games. Now, the thing I'll say about going to Ole Miss, you do get Ole Miss the week after they play Bama, so that is a benefit, right? You catch them at a good point. Now, the other point though is LSU, after going back-to-back road games against Ole Miss, Missouri, comes home against Auburn, and Auburn has an open date the week before they play LSU. So that's why that game I've always circled out and been like, that stretch right there, that 3-game stretch is just loaded with landmines. You're going to beat Arkansas, but at Ole Miss, at Missouri, home against Auburn, that stretch right there is loaded with, like, I could see LSU tripping on any one of those games. They're going to be favored in all of them, but Florida was, or Tennessee was favored at Florida. It's just hard to win on the road in the league, man. Let's see. Count Anthony de Orleans. You told everybody about Jaden all spring and summer and got nothing but blowback. All the clowns are quiet now. I mean, crickets. Prime said he doesn't want to go to the NFL like he was coaching kids into the men. He likes to got it, yeah. Ryan Pike, I watched the entirety of the Duke Clemson game. I feel Duke is better than Bama right now. Yeah, but see, here's the thing, Ryan. If you watch the entirety of the Duke Clemson game, then you can't ignore the fact that Clemson had with 3 turnovers inside the 10-yard line. Clemson had no business losing that game. I mean, that is the definition of the final score doesn't tell the whole story of that ball game. So, anyway. Von Bluesman, good one against Mississippi State. Keep improving Tigers. Do you anticipate any new rule changes to NIL? No. I mean, look, you're doing that NIL podcast with Pixley and the Matchpoint folks. Everything I've ever been told, man, that they ever try to cap NIL, they already have lawsuits drawn, ready to file. I just don't know what you could possibly do. Ryan Pike, maybe Clemson isn't all that good, but at least it shows Duke can hang with the boys. Matt, if Nuss would have started, we would have won by 200. Craig. Tommy, Arnett is not ready to be a head coach. State should go back to Mullen or make a run at Kingsbury. Jeremy Lane, pump the brakes. We played State. Go Tigers. True, but you went on the road in conference and dominated a conference opponent. I agree. I do not think Mississippi State is a great team, but it is also fair to look and say when you overwhelm an opponent like that, you have demonstrated the gap between you and that tier in the conference when the rest of the league struggles, which is why you should feel good today if you're an LSU fan. Matthew Garner, big homer take. I want the Florida State rematch for the Natty. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch. Juice Williams, absolutely love your commentary. Your honest opinion is very much appreciated and needed. You're never too high, never low, just even. Thank you, Juice. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for being here. It's a very tough thing to do, man. And I try very hard. It's not easy because I am a fan like everybody else, and I want to see my teams win all the time. So it's something you have to kind of train yourself to do to try to be impartial. I don't think I do it all the time, I picked LSU to beat Florida State. I'm sure a big part of that was my inherent bias toward the team that I love and cover. But anyway, but thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Woods, Garrett won. Caleb Jackson's going to be that dude. He looks awesome. He does look awesome. Ron Swanson, Matt, after this weekend, is there any team in the country that scares you? Feels like college football playoff is wide open as it's been in a long time. I think that's a good point. I put it to you this way. I think LSU is capable of beating any team in the country. It's not to say they will. You've already lost a game, and so you are decidedly at a disadvantage. Ooh, it is almost 11 o'clock. I gotta get going. Dave said, Washington is scary. There's a lot of teams that are scary. There's a lot of really good football teams. Texas is a good football team. Georgia's good. Notre Dame's good. Ohio State's good. Florida State's good. There's a lot of really good teams. Oregon's good. But are you capable of beating all of them? Yes, I think so. Are you capable of losing those games? Yes. But that's kind of what makes it really fun. It feels more like a level playing field instead of the same 3 or 4 teams, 5 teams every year that are right in it. Like we could actually have new blood in the playoff this year, which would be a lot of fun. Scott said, Matt, I feel like Kyron Lacey is completely absent. Did Chris Hilton take over as wide receiver 3? Chris Hilton was out there a ton yesterday and was out there early getting targets. He had a 5-yard reception on LSU's first, I'm looking at it right here, on LSU's first drive. So, second and 1, get a 5-yard reception. Yeah. So yes, and he deserves it, man. Like that is the definition of a meritocracy. Chris Hilton deserves playing time. He had a great camp, and when he's gotten his opportunity in games, he has played really well. And Kyron, who they're very high on and is a very good player, has had trouble with drops. So yes, Chris Hilton deserves more playing time. Gulf South, speaking of Palmer, he's the only one I've heard talk about the feedback Jaden got from draft scouts. He's very hesitant and needed to improve. That's the issue most fans had last year. Seems it was valid. So I guess that's Jesse Palmer. Let's see. I didn't hear what Jesse said. And that's probably accurate. How much, though, a year ago, I think the point with Jaden was, it's not like, again, sometimes you lose context of the moment. And if you think back to a year ago, that was a team that was on the brink of the bottom falling out a lot. Like, you were down on the road at Auburn. You got a defensive score, which allowed you to turn that thing around. You were down on the road to Florida, and then your offense got going, and then the snowball effect happened offensively. But you could have very easily lost those 2 games. You very easily could have lost to Alabama. That was an overtime game, obviously, and you went for a 2-point conversion if Mason Taylor doesn't make the play. You could have very easily been a 7-5 team, But one of the reasons you weren't is because you had a quarterback that protected the football, didn't get you beat. So yes, absolutely. And you also had an offensive line that was a sieve for the first half of the year. And so he just took off and ran because he was running for his life. So that context matters. I'm not saying the guy's infallible. I'm not saying he's going to be a first-round pick or anything like that. But it's the thing that was so impressive last year is he gave you exactly what you needed. Like, you needed a veteran presence who protected the football, who could make plays with his feet or through the air, took what the defense gave him, all the cliches, right? But he did all those things, which is why you were able to win 10 games a year ago. So, with a better offensive line, a better running game, like you expect to see progression this year, absolutely. That's a very fair expectation. I completely agree with that. But the context of last season matters. It matters a lot for any player in any season. Perks for Matt, do you think Ole Miss will be 2:30? I do not. I think it'll be a night game. The Ole Miss plays Bama this week at 2:30. So I do not think CBS is going to take Ole Miss in consecutive weeks at 2:30. So I do not think the Ole Miss game is 2:30. I think it will be a night game. I think the only real question is, do they snag it for 11 a.m.? But my guess is with the opportunity to get LSU, kind of a rising LSU team in primetime, they probably prefer, the networks would probably prefer that. Maybe it's SEC Network and not ESPN, but I do think it'll be a night game. Daniel Glenn, thoughts on Mike Gundy's future? Terrible loss for Oklahoma State yesterday. I don't know. I'm not super plugged in there, man, to really be able to tell you. Sorry. Scooter Rushing, good morning from West Monroe. Good to see you there. All right, y'all. I'm sorry. I got to get going because I got to go shower and I got to get to church. For everybody I've missed here, I'm sorry. LSU, Cortland, I'm particular about my eyes. Couldn't even wear contacts. Scares me to think about surgery. Cortland, I'm telling you, I was the same guy. Just go for the consultation. Just go for the consultation. Like, go for the consultation. That's all what I'll tell you. Let's see. Samuel says probably a good question for Matt. Alex, Jaden takes too many hits. He slid twice yesterday. I think he tweaked his calf. They were massing it. Okay. I mean, he played the whole game. They were up 41-14. They put us in the fourth quarter. But we can ask if. Do you think we'll be fully healthy against Arkansas? No, I don't think. I don't think Spates will be ready. I think Mason Taylor probably could have given it a go yesterday. They didn't feel like they needed him. So I think Taylor would be available next week. But Spates, I don't think you'll have next week. The question that he asked about Mississippi State getting an exception for the Cowbells. Okay, last one, then I got to go. So it would have been like 2008 or 2009. Hang on. There was a movement to get Mississippi State to not be allowed to have their Cowbells, and they were being confiscated. People were still sneaking them in. It became a thing. And I want to say it was 2010. I said 8 or 9. It was 2010. And they implemented a Respect the Bell program and asking people to ring responsibly. And I remember this big produced video that they played in Davis Wade Stadium and all that stuff. They got Jackie Sherrill on it and a lot of anyway. Essentially, the league said you can have your cowbell tradition, but you cannot ring the cowbells. And you'll notice this in the stadium because largely they do it. You cannot ring the cowbells at the snap. So like when the huddle breaks at the line of scrimmage, you can't ring the cowbells and affect the snap. And so what you'll hear is you will hear the cowbells largely stop ringing and then start again once the ball is snapped. So that was sort of like the agreement the league put in place to allow Mississippi State to have the cowbells. I still think it's fundamentally absurd. No one is allowed artificial noisemakers. They shouldn't be allowed artificial noisemakers. I do respect, I understand the thing about college football is people respect traditions and the uniqueness of all that. And I completely do. Can understand and love and respect all the great traditions that they have and that everybody has and everything. But like when it's something that affects the game like that, it's not okay. It's not okay to be ringing cowbells. So anyway, that's it. So it was 2010 when they did Respect the Bell. And the league had rules put in place on ringing cowbells and when they could ring during the game and all that stuff. So, okay, it's after further review. I gotta go to church. Oh my God, it's 11:02. Shout out to Brock Hudko. You need an orthopedist, call Brock. Need a roof, give a shout. Hudko's pinned in the chat. HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com. Thank you all so much for watching. YouTube, please smash that like button. Subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Moscona page, share the post. Thank you all so much for being here. Have an awesome day. Go Tigers. Enjoy your NFL Sunday. Peace.